Hello out there, everyone. Today we're going to take a quick look at this Shout Select Blu-ray release of Suburbia, a 1983 film, I believe, directed by Penelope Spheris. And of course, she originally had done a documentary called The Decline of Western Civilization, and it was about the punk rock scene in LA in the late 70s, early 80s, I believe. And she was inspired to attempt to make a narrative piece of fiction on that topic. And of course, this is a Roger Corman movie, so you can imagine that it's lean, mean, and not an ounce of fat on it. That's what Corman's trademarks were. He would typically also feature some exploitative scenes to just sort of grab you by the jugular, as it were. But it's definitely a low budget, very independent film. But at the same time, you actually do see some really interesting moments on screen. I believe all but two of the actors in the film were actually not actors. They were kids from the LA punk scene, including Flea, who at that time was, apparently, playing his bass and was in some bands. Um, but of course, had started to dabble into acting and had gone on to, of course, famously star in Point Break later on, as well as The Big Lebowski, among other films. But in any case, I digress. It does feature Flea, no kidding, deep throating a rat. It's a very bizarre scene. I'm not sure exactly what was going on there, why anyone in their right mind would stick a rat in their mouth, but he does it, and it does not appear to be any kind of special effect. I think it's the real deal. I'm sure it was sort of a parlor trick he used at kids' houses back in the day. But in any case, the movie is a very nice companion to a similar themed teenage angst movie called Over the Edge, which I've reviewed earlier and is most famously known as Kurt Cobain's favorite film. And it too basically depicts sort of teenage anxiety and unbridled passion run amok. And I think that's basically what's going on in this film, although these kids don't really have any home lives. They all sort of squat in this house that was apparently a real location that had been condemned by, I think, eminent domain, actually. They believe they put the 105 freeway there eventually. And so these houses were just left there derelict, and Penelope Spheris opted to film the movie in one of them, and I think it's a pretty wise decision because it definitely gives an air of verisimilitude, as they say. It feels very lived in. Everything about pretty much all of the actions of the kids, as well as just the moments between the adults, it feels real. The acting itself is a little uneven, as you would expect with a movie with mostly real street kids, probably acting in their first film. But it's not bad, and there are some genuine moments of pathos that surprised me. And like I said, it was reminiscent of Over the Edge, especially the dynamic rather between the misunderstood kids and the adults. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it. Now, beware, the first scene is a little harsh. I've read from others that have said that it was totally gratuitous and didn't provide any value whatsoever. And while I do agree it was pretty extreme, I actually do think it sets up something that happens later on in the film. So I'm not exactly sure why one reviewer I saw on YouTube, was just thinking it was just a complete non sequitur that had no connection to the rest of the film. I disagree. I mean, I think it just shows the violent nature of people who are often living in poverty and what they are faced with, and the seemingly tragic things that sort of befall them because they're living precarious lives. It's like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. I think the Shout Select Blu-ray here is good. I mean, apparently it's supposed to be a 4K scan, but I mean the picture quality is not great. But the grain is intact, and you can make out all the dialogue. And I think it has a definite place on any cinephile shelf, especially for those who appreciate sort of the LA punk scene circa 1980s. So on that note, give it a shot. I think you'll like it, and the Shout Select is definitely the one to get. I'm sure this is the best that the film is going to look, and it's the best quality version of the film that's available. So definitely, give it a shot. I think you'll be rewarded mightily, as they say. So on that note, take care out there, everyone. Please do stay safe, be kind, and keep watching good cinema.